gently took Zara from her arms. "Let me help." Inside, Maya administered Zara's medication while Elijah prepared some tea. She noticed how he moved around her kitchen with natural ease, as if he belonged there. When Zara had fallen asleep, they sat in the living room in awkward silence. "She's extraordinary," Elijah finally said. "Her questions about quasars yesterday? Most graduate students wouldn't think to ask those." Maya nodded. "She's always been fascinated by space. Sometimes she knows things I never taught her." She hesitated. "Elijah, what did you mean about the hospital earlier?" "What happened after New Mexico?" Pain flashed across his face. "The day after you left, there was an accident at the lab. Chemical exposure. I was in a coma for 2 months, then rehabilitation for another 4. By the time I was well enough to look for you, you'd changed numbers, moved away. No one knew where you'd gone." Maya's world tilted on its axis. All these years, she'd believed he'd abandoned her when he discovered she was pregnant. But if what he was saying was true... "I need to tell you something about Zara," she began. But a small voice interrupted them. "Mommy, my head feels funny again." They both turned to find Zara standing in the hallway, swaying slightly. As Elijah rushed to steady her, Maya couldn't help noticing how similar they looked. The same determined chin, the same intensity in their gaze. Sooner than she'd planned, the truth was rushing toward them like a comet on a collision course with Earth. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. Zara lay sleeping, connected to machines tracking her brain activity. The episodes were becoming more frequent, more intense. Maya sat by the bed, exhausted, while Elijah paced near the window. He hadn't left since they brought Zara in, canceling meetings and delegating responsibilities at the observatory. Autumn painted Willowbrook in shades of amber and gold as life settled into a new routine. The genetic tests confirmed Elijah was Zara's father and identified a rare neurological condition that, while not curable, was treatable with the right medication. The episodes became less frequent, though they didn't disappear entirely. Maya watched from her office window as Elijah showed Zara how to use the smaller observatory telescopes. They had the same concentrated expression as they peered into the eyepiece, the same excited gestures when discussing what they saw. It hadn't been easy. Explaining to Zara that Dr. Carter was actually her father had been a delicate conversation, filled with questions Maya wasn't always prepared to answer. Why had he been away so long? Why hadn't Mommy told her sooner? But children, Maya discovered, were remarkably adaptable.
Zara had processed the revelation with a simple, "I knew he wasn't really invisible."
"I just couldn't see him before." Elijah approached fatherhood with the same intensity he applied to his research, thoroughly, methodically, but with an underlying passion that surprised even Maya. He read parenting books, arranged his schedule to be present for school pickups, and decorated the spare room in his house for Zara's overnight visits. But between Maya and Elijah, tensions remained. Professional colleagues by day, awkward co-parents by night, neither willing to address the feelings simmering beneath the surface. One evening, after Zara had gone to bed, Maya found Elijah on her balcony, staring at the sky. "Jupiter's particularly bright tonight," he said without turning. Maya stood beside him, careful to maintain distance. "Zara's been drawing it in her science journal. She says it's calling to her." Elijah smiled. "She has a poet's heart alongside that scientific mind. Like her father," Maya said softly. He turned to her then, his eyes reflecting starlight. "I'm still angry, Maya, not at you," he clarified when she stiffened. "At the circumstances. At my parents for interfering. At myself for not trying harder to find you. I'm angry too," she admitted. "At the universe for its cruel timing. But when I look at Zara," Elijah continued, "I can't regret any of it. Every misstep, every misunderstanding led to her." The night air seemed charged with electricity as they stood facing each other, years of unsaid words hanging between them. "I never stopped loving you," Elijah whispered, reaching out to brush a strand of hair from her face. "Even when I thought you'd chosen to leave me behind." Maya leaned into his touch, her resolve crumbling. "I tried so hard to forget you. Did it work?" His fingers traced the curve of her jaw. Not for a single day. When their lips met, it felt like coming home after a long journey. His arms encircled her waist, pulling her against him while her hands threaded through his hair. The kiss deepened, years of longing and loss transforming into a desperate hunger. They stumbled inside, finding their way to her bedroom in the dark, hands relearning familiar territory. Clothing fell away as they rediscovered each other's bodies, changed by time but still achingly familiar. His lips traced the stretch marks on her stomach, badges of carrying their daughter with reverent tenderness. Her fingers found the new scars on his back from the accident that had separated them. Later, wrapped in tangled sheets in each other's arms, reality began to seep back in. "What now?" Maya asked, her head resting on his chest. Elijah's fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "We focus on Zara. She needs stability, not confusion." Maya nodded, though disappointment pricked at her heart. "Co-parents first." "For now," he agreed, kissing her forehead. "The rest, we'll figure out one constellation at a time." As dawn broke over Willowbrook, Elijah reluctantly dressed and prepared to leave before Zara woke. At the door, he pulled Maya into one last embrace. "I'm not invisible anymore," he murmured against her hair, echoing Zara's words. "And I'm not going anywhere." "The neurologist wants to run genetic tests," Maya said softly. Elijah stopped pacing. "Will that help identify what's causing the episodes?" "Possibly. They suspect a rare condition affecting her temporal lobe." Maya took a deep breath. "They'll need a sample from her father." The room grew still. Elijah turned slowly to face her, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Maya," he whispered. "Is Zara—" Maya couldn't hold his gaze. "Yes, she's yours, Elijah." He sank into the chair opposite her, face pale. 6 years. "She's 6 years old. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks after leaving New Mexico," Maya explained, her voice trembling. "I called you, texted you, emailed you, nothing. Eventually your number was disconnected. I thought you wanted nothing to do with us." "I never received any messages," Elijah said, his voice hollow. "After the accident, my parents handled everything while I was unconscious. They must have—" He trailed off, connecting the dots. "They never approved of my choice to pursue astronomy instead of joining the family business. They probably saw my accident as an opportunity to sever ties that were keeping me away." Maya felt tears spill down her cheeks. "All these years I thought you knew and didn't care." Elijah moved to kneel beside her, taking her hands in his. "I would never have abandoned you. Or her." His voice broke. "I've missed everything. Her first words, her first steps." "She's so much like you," Maya whispered. "Brilliant, curious. She sees patterns in the universe that others miss." A soft knock interrupted them as the neurologist entered. "We'd like to proceed with the tests as soon as possible," he explained. "Mrs. Reeves, if you've been able to contact the father—" "I'm her father," Elijah stated, standing. "Whatever you need from me, do it." After the doctor left, they stood in awkward silence. "I should have told you as soon as I saw you at the observatory," Maya admitted. "Why didn't you?" "Fear. Anger. I wasn't sure how you'd react after all this time." Elijah ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made Maya's heart ache. "I need some air," he said, moving toward the door. Maya watched him go, unsure if he would return. Outside in the hospital garden, Elijah sat on a bench, mind reeling. A daughter. He had a daughter. The knowledge was both exhilarating and devastating. 6 years lost. Time he could never recover. He thought about Zara, with her curious questions about space and her solemn eyes. How had he not seen it immediately? She was the perfect blend of Maya and himself. When he returned to the room an hour later, Maya was asleep in the chair, her hand still holding Zara's. He covered her with his jacket and sat on the other side of the bed, watching his daughter's peaceful face. "I'm here now," he whispered to Zara, "and I'm not going anywhere." As if she heard him, Zara's eyes fluttered open. She regarded him without surprise, as if she'd been expecting him. "You're not invisible anymore," she said sleepily. "What do you mean?" Elijah asked gently. "In my dreams, you're always watching from far away like a star. But now you're here." She reached out her small hand, and Elijah took it, marveling at how perfectly it fit in his over her head. His eyes met Maya's, who was now awake and watching them with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. For the first time in 7 years, Elijah felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Maya Reeves stepped out of the taxi, holding her daughter's small hand. The Willowbrook Observatory stood against the twilight sky, its dome gleaming in the setting sun. 7 years had passed since she'd last seen this place, since she'd left with a broken heart and, unknowingly, a new life growing inside her. "Is this where you used to work, Mommy?" 6-year-old Zara asked, her curious eyes wide with wonder. "Yes, sweetheart. And it might be where we both work now," Maya replied, smoothing down Zara's unruly dark curls. The same curls that reminded her daily of Zara's father. The observatory doors slid open and Maya's heart stuttered. Elijah Carter stood framed in the doorway, tall and commanding as ever, though time had etched fine lines around his eyes. His dark hair was shorter now, peppered with silver at the temples. He hadn't seen her yet, busy explaining something to a young intern beside him. "Dr. Reeves?" the receptionist called, causing Elijah to look up. His expression froze, eyes widening as they locked with hers. "Maya," he breathed, her name falling from his lips like a forgotten prayer. The intern beside him glanced between them, sensing the tension. "I'll finish this later, Dr. Carter," she murmured before slipping away. Elijah approached slowly as if Maya might vanish if he moved too quickly. "I didn't realize you were the new research lead from MIT. "Surprise," Maya offered weakly, suddenly questioning her decision to return to Willowbrook. His gaze dropped to Zara, who was partially hiding behind Maya's leg. "And who's this?" "This is my daughter, Zara." Maya's throat tightened. "Zara, say hello to Dr. Carter. He's the director of the observatory now." Zara peeked out, studying Elijah with solemn eyes that mirrored his own. "Hello," she said softly. "Do you know about quasars?" "Mommy says they're super bright galaxies with black holes." A smile touched Elijah's lips. "I do know about quasars. Your mom taught me a thing or two about them, actually." Maya felt a pang of nostalgia, those nights under New Mexico skies, pointing out constellations, discussing theories about the universe while tangled in each other's arms. "Your office is ready," Elijah said, professional mask slipping back into place. "I can show you." "The one overlooking the valley?" Maya asked. "That was always my favorite." Something flashed in his eyes, recognition, memory. "It's still there. Some things don't change." The words hung between them, loaded with meaning. As they walked through the familiar corridors, Maya felt Zara's hand in hers and Elijah's presence behind her. This was going to be complicated. Later that evening, after settling into their new apartment, Maya tucked Zara into bed. "Did you like the observatory, baby?" Zara nodded sleepily. Dr. Carter looked sad. "Like the man in my dreams." Maya's heart raced. "What man in your dreams?" "The one who watches the stars with me. He has the same eyes as me." Zara yawned, drifting off to sleep. Maya leaned against the doorframe, thoughts swirling. Elijah had no idea that Zara was his daughter, conceived during those magical months in New Mexico. She had tried to tell him when she discovered she was pregnant, but he had vanished. No responses to calls, emails, messages. She had eventually given up, believing he wanted nothing to do with her. Now, watching her daughter sleep, Maya wondered if returning to Willowbrook had been a mistake. But with Zara's mysterious illness requiring specialized care available only here, she had no choice. Sooner or later, the truth would emerge. Outside her window, the night sky sparkled with stars. Somewhere in the same town, Elijah was probably looking at the same stars, unaware that the daughter he never knew he had was dreaming about him. Maya's first week at the observatory passed in a blur of orientation meetings and equipment calibrations. She kept her interactions with Elijah strictly professional, though she caught him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. Each glance carried the weight of unspoken questions. On Friday afternoon, Maya was adjusting the main telescope when Elijah entered the dome. "The alignment's off by 3 degrees, she said without looking up. "You always did have an eye for precision," Elijah replied, moving beside her. His proximity sent a rush of warmth through her body, awakening memories she'd tried to suppress. Their hands brushed as they both reached for the calibration tool. Maya pulled back as if burned, but Elijah caught her wrist gently. "Maya, we can't keep pretending there isn't a history here." She met his gaze, struck by the flecks of amber in his dark eyes, the same ones Zara had inherited. "It's complicated, Elijah." "It always was," he sighed, releasing her. "Remember New Mexico?" The mention of New Mexico transported Maya back 7 years. They had been part of a research team tracking a unique meteor shower. While their colleagues focused on the sky, Maya and Elijah had discovered each other. She remembered their first kiss, beneath a blanket of stars on the desert plateau. How his hands had trembled slightly as they framed her face, the intensity of his gaze as he whispered, "I've waited months to do this." The heat of their bodies as they made love in his tent, while distant meteors streaked across the night sky. "I remember," she said quietly, "but that was a lifetime ago, was it? Sometimes it feels like yesterday." Elijah's voice was husky with emotion. "Why did you stop responding to my messages, Maya? I came back from the hospital and you were just gone." Maya stared at him, confusion washing over her. "Your messages?" "Elijah, you never answered any of mine. I tried for months to reach you." Before he could respond, Maya's phone rang, Zara's school. Her daughter had fallen ill again. Panic seized her as she rushed out, leaving Elijah with questions hanging in the air. At the elementary school, Maya found Zara in the nurse's office, pale but conscious. She was telling the class about binary star systems, the teacher explained. Then she suddenly stopped mid-sentence and seemed disoriented. She said she felt dizzy and needed her medicine. Maya knelt beside her daughter. "Did you see the lights again, sweetheart?" Zara nodded weakly. "The purple lights. And I heard him talking about gravity wells again." The teacher looked puzzled, but Maya simply gathered Zara into her arms. These episodes had started 6 months ago, Zara describing complex astronomical phenomena she couldn't possibly know about, followed by dizzy spells. When they arrived home, Maya was surprised to find Elijah waiting outside their apartment. "Is she okay?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "How did you know we'd be here?" Maya asked, fumbling for her keys while holding Zara. "The school called the observatory when they couldn't reach your cell. I was worried. Winter descended on Willowbrook, blanketing the observatory in snow. Inside, the atmosphere was tense as Maya and Elijah worked frantically, surrounded by research papers and medical journals. Zara's condition had worsened suddenly. The medications were no longer controlling the episodes, and each occurrence left her more drained than the last. The doctors were baffled by the unusual brain activity, spikes of energy that coincided with Zara's descriptions of purple lights and astronomical knowledge beyond her years. "There's a pattern here," Elijah insisted, spreading Zara's brain scans across the conference table. "These energy spikes correspond exactly with the meteor shower cycle from the Ophiuchus constellation." Maya looked up from her laptop. "That's the shower we were studying in New Mexico, when Zara was conceived." They exchanged a meaningful glance, both thinking the same thing. Could there be a connection? "What if," Elijah began slowly, "the chemical exposure from my accident somehow affected my DNA, created a mutation that combined with your astrophysical research at the time, resulted in Zara's unique condition?" Maya finished. "It sounds impossible. So does a 6-year-old correctly describing binary pulsar formations she's never been taught about." Elijah ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "We need to think beyond conventional medicine." For the next 2 weeks, they barely left the observatory, developing a theory so outlandish that they shared it with no one. If they were right, Zara's brain was somehow attuned to cosmic radiation from the Ophiuchus meteor stream. During peak activity periods, the connection intensified, causing the episodes. They designed a specialized chamber that could shield Zara from these specific wavelengths, while allowing her brain to gradually adapt to their absence. It was experimental, untested, but they were running out of options. The night they planned to test the chamber coincided with the peak of the meteor shower. Zara lay in the hospital bed, pale and tired from her latest episode. "Are you sure about this?" Maya asked Elijah as they made final adjustments to the equipment. He took her hand, squeezing it gently. "No, but I'm sure about us. Whatever happens, we face it together." Maya nodded, throat tight with emotion. Over the past months, they had rebuilt their relationship foundation by foundation, first as co-parents, then as friends, and finally as partners. They still lived separately, taking things slowly for Zara's sake, but the love between them had only deepened with time and shared purpose. The treatment was scheduled to last 6 hours. As the machines hummed to life, Elijah and Maya sat on either side of Zara's bed, holding her hands. Outside, meteors streaked across the night sky in a celestial display that had once brought them together and now held the key to their daughter's health. 4 hours in, Zara's vital signs remained stable. 5 hours, and her brain activity began to normalize. At the 6-hour mark, she opened her eyes. "The purple lights are quiet now," she whispered, looking first at Maya, then at Elijah. "They're still there, but they're not so loud." Over the following weeks, Zara's improvement was remarkable. The episodes decreased dramatically, and while she retained her unusual knowledge of astronomy, it no longer overwhelmed her. The doctors called it a miracle. Maya and Elijah knew it was science, unconventional, boundary-pushing science born from their unique expertise and desperate love for their daughter. On a clear spring evening, the three of them sat on the observatory roof, a picnic dinner spread before them as they waited for the night's meteor shower. "Will we see the purple lights?" Zara asked, nestled between them. "Maybe a few," Elijah answered, his arm wrapped around both his daughter and Maya. "But they won't hurt you anymore. They're just visitors from far away saying hello." Maya watched her family, the family she had never thought possible after those painful years of separation, and felt a profound sense of rightness. The past could not be changed, the lost years never recovered, but the present was vibrant and the future full of promise. As the first meteor streaked across the sky, Elijah turned to Maya. "Move in with me," he said simply. "Both of you. My house is bigger, closer to the observatory. Are you sure we're ready?" Maya asked. Elijah smiled, the same smile that had captivated her under different stars 7 years ago. "I've spent too many years without you both under my roof. I don't want to waste another day." Zara looked up at them. "Does this mean we'll be a real family? Like in my dreams?" "We already are a real family," Maya assured her, meeting Elijah's gaze over their daughter's head. "We just need to all be in the same place." Later, after Zara had fallen asleep between them, Elijah and Maya watched the continuing meteor shower. "I have a theory," Elijah murmured, his fingers intertwined with Maya's, "about why Zara could always sense me, even when I wasn't there." "Another scientific breakthrough?" Maya teased gently. "Something simpler." His eyes reflected the shooting stars above. "Some connections transcend physical presence. Like gravity, invisible but undeniable. I think some part of me was always connected to her, across time and space." Maya smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "That sounds less like science and more like love." The best theories often are. As another meteor blazed across the heavens, Maya thought about the strange, winding path that had led them here. A laboratory accident, a miscommunication, a child with stars in her blood, separate orbits that had finally, inevitably converged. Under the vast cosmic tapestry, 3 lives aligned into a perfect constellation. Mother, father, child, bound by love that, like the universe itself, would continue to expand into infinite possibility.